The integral pedagogy is not a subject. Is not another model that you should remember. It is basically value education to the process of teaching rather than having a content to teach. That means whatever be your topics that you are teaching, and whatever be your subjects, and whatever be the non-academic or co-curricular activities, we can use reflection as part of developing value formation. I think this concept have to become very, very clear. That character and citizenship education is not so much a content to be given, but you can give it as a content. But the integral pedagogy is whether it is co-curricular activities or whether you're teaching maths or science, the way you mentor students, the way you conduct your co-curricular activities, all can become value education. In that process of doing this thing, you can form values. So that is the beauty of this integral pedagogy. In other models, you have to do X, Y, Z. In this model, what we are saying, continue teaching, but you add this dimension of reflection, and that is what I'm going to explain to you. Now, what is this integral pedagogy? It is a process by which teachers accompany learners in a lifelong pursuit of what? Competence, conscience, and compassionate commitment. It is a teaching model which comprises of three main elements: experience, reflection, and action. But as someone rightly mentioned, if I have to teach, I must know my students. I must know their learning style. I know what motivates them. I must know all these things. That is what we call the context. So knowing your students, accompanying them, seeing what is their readiness to learning, all that will come under context. The experience part, and we go side by side. So this is the three major things in the aspects of the integral pedagogy, and it must include a pre-learning element, that is context, and a post-learning element, that is evaluation. Is that point clear? Okay. Now let us understand the context. What is the context? This is concerned with all the factors that help and hinder the learning process. Now we have to be when you are teaching, we must know what is the background. What does he know about the subject? Take for example, if this person has no idea of basic differentiation, I'm just talking about, a person will not able to do integration. Simple. There is no readiness for that topic. So having a simple thing like all factors that help and hinder learning. Suppose someone is not motivated, or a child is having some serious family problems at home, is not able to apply himself. Learning the background. Suppose a child has learning difficulties. So all this is part of the content. For the teacher, it involves a personal knowledge of and the care of students, and creating a conducive environment for learning, growth in commitment to values. That means teachers, see, in life is, unless you show passion for teaching, the students will not able to understand what is the passion for that topic. If you want the child to experience a lot of joy in learning, you need to create that joy in learning. And so it is so important for us teachers to create this conducive atmosphere. In other words, it refers to what needs to be known about learners, the environment, the background, the community potential. So teachers, as it said, we don't teach students the subject, we teach students the topic. The focus is, when I'm preparing my class, my lesson, no, today I'm going to teach factorization. No. Today I'm going to teach my students this topic. So what is the background? What is the readiness? What are the learning style? What are the multiple intelligence? Till what level are they very competent? Learning the background is very important for the context. So all the factors that help or hinder learning is called the context. This is point clear? So for all of us, we must know the background of our student, because the context, and this will vary from school to school. It will vary from class to class. If you have two sections of a class, you may have two different contexts. Okay, so that's. Now, the next point is, okay, it requires the teacher become conversant as possible with the context or life experience of learner. And so that's why we took the starting point for the challenges. So pedagogy never occurs in vacuum. The teacher needs to understand the world of the learner, the learning style, the attitudes, the values, the ways in which family, friend, peers, and the larger society impact that world and affect the learning for better or for worse. Take for example today. By and large, if the kids are not putting something in their ears, whatever that is, it'll be considered abnormal, Everybody has to put something. Everybody has to appear very busy with their. If you're not busy here, something abnormal. So everybody appears very busy, texting or something like that. So so there are certain things in which it has for positive or negative an impact on students. Now what is the experience? Now teachers, remember when you teach, what do? You look at the method, you look at examples, you look at your learning content, and you see the best possible way how to present, how to make the topic interesting, how to create a wow factor, how to create a thirst for deeper knowledge. All these things that you do is called experience. So what are you dealing? You're dealing at the head level, thorough knowledge. You're also helping his imagination, and you're also expressing, creating his, arousing the feeling towards the subject, the joy towards the subject. So the experience is basically dealing at the mental, the imaginative, the communicative, the emotional also, so that learning is not just to deal with the mind, but the whole person has to learn. Okay. This step outlines the best way the teacher will engage learner as whole person in the learning process. It should go beyond it should go beyond a purely intellectual gap. The whole person, mind, heart and hand, should enter the learning experience. That means the mind, the academics, cognitive, the heart, the affective, the hand, the psychomotor have to be involved. The teacher creates conditions whereby the students assimilate new knowledge in the light of their previous experience. All educators, when we do our teachers training, what we are saying, new knowledge has to be linked with prior knowledge. Then only there is a connection. What is comprehension? Comprehension is how a new knowledge is linked with what you learn. No? So the linkage, when we are able to relate, that is called comprehension, understanding. When we see there is a concept here, we do not understand the connection, it is called cognitive gap. Cognitive gap means not able to understand. And so teachers, what is the experience? Whether you're using PowerPoint, whether you're using model, whether you're doing a case study, whether you're doing a role play, or whatever forms you're doing, your job as teachers is help children, help the students, whereby they are able to assimilate it. So your job in experience is how best can I present the learning content so that the students understand. And you may use variety of methods, you may use different strategies. So experience make room for individual charism, your own creativity, your own imagination, and you can use what is called collaborative learning or pair share or what all the different approaches you can use to make this experience wonderful. But remember, the learning experience should move beyond rote knowledge. If you are only teaching facts, what is the unit of force, deduction of this and that, then it is only at that level. No. So it should go to deeper complex learning skills like understanding, application, analysis, synthesis and evaluation. Moreover, Teaching learning process involves not only the mind but should also activate what? The imagination and the feeling. So a good teacher is the one who is able to present the topic and where the students are able to understand, and at the same time the students are able to feel regarding the topic, that the teacher is able to really create a thirst for deeper knowledge. So because of that, the students' imagination, their feelings are aroused so that they feel the joy of learning the learning content. The third part is, here is the most important part. Normally what we do, we teach, have an exam, give it back. That is the action. Here we are using one element. Now that I have taught them the subject, now that I have taught them how is it in terms of not only the the values or not, I help them to reflect. What is this thing? This is the key to integral pedagogy. Here the memory, the understanding, the imagination are feelings to use for what? To grasp the essential meaning and the value of what is studied. Teachers, unless we help students, why is this topic meaningful? Why is it, what is the importance of this topic? What is the importance of the action? We will not, so that is the point where reflection comes. It is a process whereby the students makes the learning experience his or her own, gets to the meaning of the learning experience for self and for others. Now let me give you a small example. Let us take from a profit and loss. Suppose I say a man bought, whatever it is, say a box of mangoes for 1,000 rupees and he sold it for 5,000 rupees. Okay? So you are able to calculate what is the profit because you have the cost price, you have the selling price, you have the profit, and you can remove the percentage. That's pure mathematics. Now, I take this mathematics and I see the human significance. Is this big profit justifiable? And if this is a big profit justifiable in the context of if it is done in the midst of people who are having a low income. You get the point? You have to make profit. But you must not make people helpless that you are drawing a big profit and not worried about others. So it's an exercise where I do profit and loss, but at the same time see its significance in the lives of people. Okay. Let me take another simple example. So here we do not have gender sensitivity or gender discrimination. Let us take another thing about friction. Now I am teaching friction and I taught them about what is friction is, what is resisting force is, when the resistant force is zero, then what happens, why should I put powder in a dancing floor, all those things I do, all those things. Now I say also one thing, for the Indian context, not Singapore context. I say, why is bananas prohibited being sold in our Indian railway station? Bananas, you understand. Why is the sale of bananas prohibited on our Indian railway station? I make a fun of it. Why? Because most of us Indians, we do not have it, as we peel it out, we just drop the leaves where it falls down. We don't go and put it in the dustbin. Being Indians then, you're always looking up. So I make it very humorous, no? Now what happens is, I could slip and cause damage to myself. Right? Now what have I taken? I've taken the topic on friction, the resisting force and all those sort of things, and I've applied it. And so, what am I trying to do? When the resisting force is zero, the friction, the friction is little, so I can slip, I can damage. Okay. Same thing. Why do we put a little bit of notice when there is a wet floor? No? You, especially in our big halls and all, you're able to put. Why is a display supposed to be where there is a building repairs? Simple things like this. Okay. So what we are doing is basically we take up some of these topics. I will be coming later in the explaining it to you, and help people to see the human significance of the topic. So your job is basically teach well, do whatever you're doing, but do this little bit of extra work. What is that? Take the topic, help students to see the significance in their life and the significance in the life of the community. Then you make, when you reflect on that experience, it becomes a deep learning. That's the step which you should become aware of. And when you are doing this step, you are forming values. So you don't have to take another subject as such. By the topic, whatever topic you are teaching, you will be able to form values. Okay. Thus, reflection is a process by which meaning surfaces in human experience. How? By understanding the truth by being studied. So that means we must study thoroughly well. Then only we understand the meaning. Second, understanding the sources of sensation, reaction of one experience. Sometimes, I should be sensitive. I feel sensitive, but it's very important. I don't like to be sensitive to other people's feelings. That means I'm selfish. I react, no? So it helps us become aware of the feeling one is having by deepening one understanding of the implication one has grasped for oneself and for others. By achieving personal insight to events. Take for example, we did not cooperate and this misfired. No? So you start reflecting on this. So the importance of cooperating, of better communication, so that we don't misfire things. Okay. E, by coming to some understanding of who one is or what one might be in relationship to others. Okay. Hence, reflection should be formative. Character, we are talking about character formation. We are talking about citizenship. Reflection should be formative. That means it should transform, it should help one to grow. And a liberating process. That means it should help people to think deeply, think beyond themselves, go beyond instant gratification and all those sort of things. That so shape the consciousness of the students, their habitual attitudes, the values, belief, as well as the thinking, that they are moved beyond knowing to action. That is finally what is character education. That is finally what is citizenship. You don't have to have people who say, we all have to be good citizens and do nothing about it. We don't have to have people who say, we should help and keep quiet. No. The importance of this integral pedagogy is because of the emotions, because of the knowledge, because of its human significance of what we do, we are impelled. Here we are there. Belief, thinking, so that they are impelled to move beyond knowing to action. And so that's a very important teachers. When you are teaching, don't teach them as a matter of fact. You must teach them with a lot of passion. You must teach them with a lot of, a desire for the subject. And so use a lot of examples. How does it signifies in the life of people, in our personal life? Use those examples so that people are moved into action. Okay. Significance by what they study and integrate meaning as responsible learners who grow as persons of competence, conscience, and compassion. So some examples. Suppose now there are some examples. What are the assumptions in the theory of atom? Am I happy with an atom bomb being invented? Today we are talking about different things that we need to do. You have genetic engineering. You have cloning. What is cloning? What are the plus point, minus point of cloning? All that is beautiful. But today, then we need to move ahead. How does cloning affect us as human persons? And to see its significance in our life. What assumption? Okay. What are the likely effects environment what is that? Here it is. Efforts to check greenhouse effect will have on my life, on that of my family and friend. What will happen? What will be a more equitable distribution of world goods affect me? How does what I have just learned make me feel? Am I at peace at the end of the day? So you can have reflection from affecting personal life, reflection that affects life as our relationship, or our relationship to the environment, or our social life, or our economic life. All these things can come in reflection. The fourth thing is, after we reflect, one of the things that integral pedagogy does is, it refers to the internal human growth based upon the experience that has been reflected upon and manifested externally. So action is not merely activity. Today we studied maths and I did homework. That is good, yeah. Precision is an action. But more than that, it is something that takes change in my attitude, change in my behavior. So that's why the integral pedagogy in one sense is developing people of character, people of compassion. Why? There is a growth in my attitude. My attitude becomes positive. There is a change in my behavior because the experience has been reflected upon. So, action is not merely an activity. It refers to the internalized choice and choices externally manifested. What does this mean? It refers to the choices made in the light of the experience and reflection, whereby meaning is judged from personal and societal point of view. Take for example, suppose I learn profit and loss. And then I say, if I make profit, I should make a reasonable profit, not at the expense of where the poor cannot buy. Or suppose I say, we must share our resources. Take for example, carpooling. We can talk about parking, space less and all. The importance of carpooling, I should also take it, not only that I always go in somebody else's car, but I also need to offer. So there is a change in attitude that takes place, change in behavior. The choices externally manifest refers to external behavior or act that impels a student to act, to do something consistent with the new conviction that comes to reflection, meaning, priorities, commitment, habits, and all. Take for example, when I'm in a metro, I should be very respectful of elders. Very important. It is not that we must show respect, no. But when I'm traveling, if I see somebody elder, I'll offer my seat. No? So this is how it is. It can be not only in an attitude, but coming up in the choices that make externally. The teacher provides opportunity that will challenge the imagination and exercise the will of the learners to choose the best course of action from what they have learned. Take for example, I do not know whether your students fight. Do your students fight here? No, they don't fight. Very good students. Okay. Now suppose their students come and they had a tremendous fight. No? This is part lunch or whatever. They had a physical fight, banged each other, nose bleeding, this bleeding, okay. Fine, very good. After that, this is an experience that they had. Now what do? Get lost. Throw them out. Stand, punishment. That is an action. That is an action. But we miss one step. Okay, you fought. I want you to understand, is there any other way you could have handled this situation? Make them reflect. And what is the way you can handle this situation? Okay? And if something happens next, how would you handle it? So what is it we are helping them to reflect on that experience so that their way of responding in future through an external behavior or through an attitude changes. That is what we are talking about. Okay. So the action is basically indicates the personal transformation. This is what I want to do. Indicates personal transformation, character formation. And at the same time indicates values concretized in terms of societal justice and better life for all, what we call citizenship education. That's why teachers, I strongly believe, because you teachers, we have enough to teach. We don't need another content. But what we need to do is, we teachers also have to contribute to the society. And the integral pedagogy, that's why I say is, whatever subject I'm teaching, from the prep or to the 12th class, if I can introduce this dimension of reflection, of making that topic meaningful to the life of the student, with respect to his own personal growth, and with respect to the community, the welfare of the community, I am bringing a very important dimension in achieving the goals of education. Then the last part is called the evaluation. It assesses the learner's growth in mind, heart, and spirit. So what we call continuous comprehensive evaluation. Integral pedagogy aims at evaluation that includes academic mastery, also well-rounded growth as person for others. Now, we may have brainy guys, but useless in community living. We want brains to be developed, and at the same time, what we want? Well-rounded growth as persons for others. We want people to grow in the context of they are there to contribute to the society. They are there for the welfare of others. In other words, it is academic testing and well as a periodic evaluation of what? Students' growth in attitudes, priorities, and action. What is that? Which are consistent with being a person for others. So that is the child becoming generous? Is the child becoming sociable? Is he trying to, in conversation skill, is he only talking, but is he also listening? Is he allowing people to talk? Many differ. Is he respectful for others? All this thing is becoming part and parcel of the evaluation. Thus, the continual reflection of experience, reflection, and action is the heart of the teaching learning dynamics of integral pedagogy. This is a practical tool, an effective instrument whereby the three steps of the model, the students are impelled. What are they impelled? To consider the human meaning and the significance of what they study, and to integrate that meaning as responsible learners who grow as persons of competence, conscience, compassion, and commitment. Teachers, I can tell you, I've read many models, but no model in one sense go to such depth, go to subject. And this depth is coming from that world view which I talked to you in the first section. Now, how is this depth that we are talking about linked with quality teaching that we are doing? Among the factors attributed to quality teachers, three important ones are the intellectual depth, the interrelation capacity, and self-reflection. Today, you read any topic on quality teaching, the three aspects are intellectual depth, which you all are doing. The second, the interrelation capacity, relating to life, relating to other subject. So you see, that is what we have to say. As much as if you can relate the topic to different subject, different topics within the subject, then you are going to do the interrelate, and it has to be separate. These factors characterize the kind of learning that makes a difference. If you're just focusing on rote learning, it does not make a difference. You may get good marks, but it will not make a difference in one's life and in the life of the society. The teacher has to induct students to the new skills of interpretation, communication, negotiation, and reflection. And so teachers, this is your role in your integral pedagogy, that you can make a difference. And by introducing reflection, you can contribute in the life of the society, you can contribute to the life of the student. In other words, quality teacher goes beyond preparing students for marks or rote learning. And this is what I strongly believe, that we should not be here for just rote learning. We must be here to contribute something for the growth of the students and the growth of the society. And finally, hence teachers need to believe in their capacity to make a difference. And this is teachers. If you do not believe, nobody can force you to believe. And if you believe that you can make a difference, you will make that difference. And so we all need to believe in the lives of students by looking at their profession, not limited to academic responsibility, but also around a wider role in personal and societal development. And as teachers, we need to see, we have definitely academic responsibility, but as quality teachers, as quality teaching, we need to see our role in the personal and social development. In other words, quality teaching will involve what? Technical learning, known as factual, interpretive learning, known as social, and reflective learning, that will be very personal. Okay?